My name's Jenna Livernois, Dare County's horticulture agent with NC Cooperative Extension. I'm here at the Arboretum and Teaching Garden here in Kill Devil Hills to answer some of your horticulture and gardening questions. In early spring, many of us are eager to get out in our gardens, especially with the warming temperatures. It's important to remember that temperatures can fluctuate in late February and March. Although the average last frost date for the Outer Banks is March 11th, it's a good idea to look at the 10-day forecast to see if there are any freezing temperatures predicted. Until you're confident that the temperatures will remain above freezing at nighttime, it's a good practice to leave mulch on your perennial plants to protect the roots. You can begin getting your garden ready for spring by doing any spring pruning, depending on what species you may have. By removing any dead plants from last year, you could till that residue into the soil to add some extra organic nutrients and compost. You could also begin mulching your gardens or your beds to add a layer of warmth to those roots to keep them nice and healthy and warm during the unpredictable weather that we have during the spring. When you're thinking about soil amendments, you would want to get a soil test done first. This is done through the Agronomic Services of North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Sample boxes and forms are available at the Extension office in Manio Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5, or Wednesday mornings at the Arboretum and Teaching Garden adjacent to the Baum Senior Center in Kill Devil Hills from 9 to 10:30. I would recommend amending the soil once you have the results of your soil test. That way it would give the soil time to adjust if you needed to raise or lower the pH. It would have enough time to do that before you started planting. Planting native flowers and shrubs are going to be your best bet. They've evolved and grown in this area for thousands of years, and they are well adapted to our coastal conditions. When planting natives, I like to plant for all 4 seasons, so there's interest throughout the year. Flowering in the spring would be combine, black locust, and coral honeysuckle. The North Carolina Vegetable Planting Guide says we should start around April 15th. I would just double check the 10-day forecast and make sure we aren't going to have any unusually cold weather. And conversely, if it is going to be unusually warm, you could maybe begin to plant sooner than April 15th. Soil temperature is really important. You would want the soil temperature to be above 60 degrees for tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants. To prepare your raised beds or containers for spring gardening, I would remove any dead plants or last year's crops. I would add a good organic compost mixture to the top layer of soil, mixing it in as best you can. Add a balanced, slow-release granular fertilizer appropriate for the crops you'll be planting. If you are direct sowing as opposed to using starter plants, it can be helpful to add a top layer of sifted potting mix or seed starting mix. Most spring and summer vegetable crops like tomatoes, peppers, and summer squashes prefer to be started indoors or in a nursery ahead of planting time. During the winter and spring, it's important to lightly water the soil to keep the bacteria supported until planting time. As plants begin to leaf out, we start to notice some pests becoming more active. The NC State Plant Disease and Insect Clinic is a great resource. They have Be on the Lookouts, or BOLOs as they call them, each month. If you have any questions about particular plants, NC State has a great resource, the Plant Toolbox. In the Plant Toolbox, you can find thousands of plants, their growing conditions, common pests, and issues that you may have with them.